And I see we are live streaming now on YouTube. So I'd like to welcome everyone to our Prescott Town Council meeting for October 18th, 2021. We'll begin with a call to order. And as usual, we will note that we were holding this meeting tonight on the Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples. And particularly, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabeg, and the Oneida and Haudenosaunee peoples. Before we go on to the approval of the agenda tonight, I would like to have a moment of silence. As everyone knows, we did lose one of our best citizens, one of our best people in Leo Boyvin on the weekend. So I'd just like to start off tonight with a brief moment of silence in memory of Leo, who was a good friend to all of us, and especially to his hometown here of Prescott. Thanks, everyone. I would like to open the floor at this time. A lot of us here on the meeting tonight, we're friends of Leo. So if anyone did have any comments, anything they'd like to say, their memories of our own Hockey Hall of Famer and such a great friend and community promoter here in Prescott. So I'll just open it up if anyone did have any comments they'd like to make at this time. Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. As a community, we have a lot of, I guess, what we would call institutions, landmarks, so to speak, things that it would be very tough to think of Prescott without. Our three historic churches, for example, a lot of our buildings downtown, and it doesn't have to be extremely old. The Centennial Park, it's hard to imagine Prescott without that. Sandra Essalon Harbor. But along with those institutions, buildings, there are also people that I'm not going to say we take them for granted. We just see them every day and say hello, stop and chat, but all of a sudden they're gone. And we've had a few of those that we've lost in the last few years. And Leo is certainly one of those. A quiet, friendly man to stop and talk to you anytime you bumped into him. He was my first wife's uncle, so I knew him quite well, and we attended many family functions together over the years. But it's just somebody that you know he's there, and now he's not, and the town is poorer for it. And my condolences certainly to his family. Thank you.
Apologies, I was muted there. Councillor Young, please. Thanks very much, Lee.
Thank you, Brett. I was in attendance at the dinner we held at the community center after Leo was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we dedicated that night to Leo with the naming of our arena, the Leo Boyvin Community Center. And many of his former players were in attendance that night. And then we were invited back down to his home for a celebration after the evening. Leo was an unassuming person, but did talk to everyone in town. He did have something to say to everyone, and he was a good guy. I recall a couple of times when minor hockey got into a situation, and a phone call to Leo fixed it. It was good to hear stories from Leo and some of his recollections of his very, very great career. Not many people from small towns like that make it to the NHL the way he did. And we were very proud of him, and he was very proud of Prescott. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ray. Anyone else have any words they'd like to share this evening? Councillor Shankar, please.
Oh, I was quite saddened to hear of Leo's passing away. He was one of those gentlemen, you'd never know he was in the Hall of Fame for hockey. Like he never boasted. He never wanted the spotlight. He never wanted the spotlight, honestly. Like you'd have to twist his arm to get him. But I know that whenever you'd see him in the rink, he'd ask about your kids or your team, and how are they playing and everything. And you just be like, most of the times you'd be standing there in awe, like he's asking me how my kid's doing. It's like, holy smokes. But that's just the gentleman that he was, and always willing to listen, always there for you. And he'll be greatly missed in this town. I know he hadn't been well for a while, but it's still a sad day in Prescott. And I was getting messages from people in Toronto and, even the United States saying, hey, you lost Leo, right? So he was well renowned throughout the world. So we'll miss him dearly. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. Great tribute. Anyone else have any words this evening? Councillor Jansma.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I just echo the same comments that have been mentioned. Prescott certainly has lost a special person. Leo helped me and my children on more than one occasion, but the first time, and I shared this at a family dinner last night, when my son and daughter were very, very young, Leo happened to hear through the grapevine, through my friend Janet, that I was taking the kids up to Toronto and going to the Hall of Fame and, going here and going there and everything. And the next day he came to my door with free passes to the Hall of Fame. So I think it's just a prime example of how he just wanted to help every child love the sport of hockey and just love sports and love a small community. So yes, he will certainly be missed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Reading all the condolences online is just absolutely amazing. And quite often people would use legend. He's a legend in our town, and how true. A very kind soul, very soft-spoken, and definitely leaving a legacy for all of the young hockey fans and players out there that want to grow up and be just like Leo Boyvin. So that's a great legacy to look back on, and I'm hoping that the family finds comfort in reading those. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Leanne. Ray, you had another.
Well, I just thought of a funny story. Maybe some of you remember Digger's Den when he was in town. It was a card trading souvenir type store, and he sold baseball cards and hockey cards. And one day he saw Leo, and he asked Leo if he had any old sticks. And Leo said, oh, sure. He said, signed by Gordie Howe and signed by this guy and that guy. And Steve got quite excited and he wanted to see them. Well, they were in the garden, cut in half, being used as tomato steaks. So that was Leo.
Yeah, I somehow knew you were going with that story as soon as you started to laugh. That was always a good one. Any other? Mike, please, Councillor Ostrander.
Well, just a personal one. Several winters ago, when my daughter was down at school at Brown in Rhode Island, Saturday afternoon, about 2 o'clock, I get a phone call. He says, Mike, it's Leo. Your daughter's game's on my TV down here. He got New England Sports Network and I didn't. He says, come on over and watch it with me. So I did. And it was one of the most delightful afternoons I ever spent. Few war stories, of course, that's what Leo was famous for. And just the kindness to think of me and ask me over to watch the game with him. And that's who he was. He was your next door neighbor. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Mike. Anything else? Anyone else have any words they'd like to share this evening? Just really quick myself. I think it's already really been summed up. He was everybody's neighbor here in town, and everybody, a lot of us around the virtual table here tonight grew up with the man. I remember as a little kid, my father's one of the few contemporaries from that era that's still around. Just turned 91, and Leo, of course, was almost 90. And these are the guys that grew up in Prescott as kids and went through so much here, and came back here, stayed here, and really committed themselves to this town in so many ways. And Leo was a great representative of that. He was. I don't want to, I never want to downgrade his incredible accomplishments in hockey with what he did in the original '6 era, going from a small town like this to become the captain of the Boston Bruins, play was it 19 seasons in the NHL, get to the Cup final that one year with the Red Wings. He saw the original '6, saw into expansion, and then had a career in hockey beyond that. I never wanted to downplay that, but around Prescott, he was just Leo. He was your neighbor. He was your friend. He was the guy around the rink. And it was just something to be able to know someone like that, and he was just a friend. He was just, and this is to me the highest compliment you can pay someone that is that accomplished but also so humble. He was just Leo. And in recent years, all the time he spent at the midget tournament, the last tournament we had, I remember I stayed with him on the Saturday night for a good 3-4 hours watching the skills competition, a couple of the games, and seeing the kids come up to him. And it was just what he did. He was just Leo, but he was also just Leo who happened to be a Hockey Hall of Famer with a legendary NHL career, and spent a lot of time as one of the most feared hitters in the league. So, but around here, it was just Leo, and that's who I'm going to miss, and that's who I think we're all going to miss around Prescott. It's a very, very, very sad loss for us. So condolences from all of us at the town of Prescott to the entire family, all friends that knew and loved Leo well. And thanks for everything, Leo. And it's thanks to the family for sharing him with us so much over these years as well, because he dedicated a lot of time to promoting Prescott, promoting hockey here. We all remember that Hockeyville campaign he was heavily involved in, and in a lot of ways came out of his shell a little bit with that too. He got more and more comfortable with some of the public attention and the adulation that really kind of came over him from Hockeyville on. So anyways, you'll be very much missed, my friend. And again, condolences to the entire family. Thanks everyone for sharing those moments tonight. Move on to the approval of the agenda this evening. Recommendation of the agenda of the council meeting of October 18th be approved as amended, as was sent out earlier this afternoon. And just in consultation with some of our Ontario border mayors, there is a resolution that I've prepared that's gone out to that group as well. I am hoping that we will be able to provide support tonight. If not, we can bring it back, or we can turn it down as well, of course. But it is a growing issue, and I did want to bring it to council first to have a little discussion about it this evening. So if someone's comfortable moving the agenda as amended this evening, please. Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor Burton. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any declarations tonight for members of council? Seeing none, nothing under 4 and 5 presentations and delegations tonight. We do have one item under 6, that's our council minutes, and 6.1 is our council minutes from October 4th. Recommendation reads that the council minutes dated October 4, 2021 be accepted as presented. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor McConnell. Any discussion on the October 4th minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. 7, communications and petitions. Under 7.1, we do have a notice of an online public open house. That's on the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville Active Transportation Plan. That's just provided for notice tonight. If anyone does want to speak to it, now's the time. Seeing no. Item 8 are consent reports for this evening. We do have the information package, the usual financial report, and a report on the traffic study and transportation plan. That's the request for quote results. Would anyone like to split these items off or speak to them separately tonight? Seeing none, no objections to that, we'll proceed with the consent reports. as noted in the agenda. So the recommendation reads that all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented. Could I have a mover, please? I moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by, I think I saw Councillor Burton's hand. So seconded by Councillor Burton. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. 9 committee reports, none this evening. 10 mayor, just a couple quick comments. Attended BIA last Tuesday night. Some interesting items there on Christmas decorations, actually, and some downtown improvements. But I'll leave that to Councillor Jansman to discuss further. Also attended the Joint Services Committee meeting. I think that was the day after our last council meeting. I did promise I'd give an update on that emergency housing or a homeless shelter proposal that the counties came out with. Joint Services, the committee agreed unanimously on Tuesday morning to accept the North Grenville offer and to begin work with North Grenville on that emergency housing, homelessness housing plan. I actually did speak in opposition to that motion for quite some time that morning, along with a couple of other mayors. I did end up voting for it at the end, though, because we are really faced with a rather serious issue, and North Grenville was the only community in Leeds Grenville to come forward with a proposal and with concrete offers of space for those that homeless shelter option. What I didn't like about the report, though, quite frankly, as I said at the time, and I'll share this evening, is there weren't many details in the staff report. It was just essentially we should go with North Grenville. And while I agree with the fact that we do need certain services in North Grenville, I remain very concerned about the lack of such services in and around the Brockville area. We did have the overdoses report came out, I think, just a few days later, showing the extent of the overdose and the drug use crisis in the city of Brockville and around the city of Brockville. And it did kind of underline to me that really should be the focus of efforts like this, because obviously there's a real connection with homelessness, especially in urban areas, and addictions and mental health issues, of course, as well. So I'm grateful that we've got the money from the province, and I'm grateful that we do have a plan going forward. At least I think internally we have a plan. We certainly didn't see that plan at Joint Services a couple of weeks ago, but at least we're moving forward with something for the region. So I take some hope in that we will provide more services for people in crisis in the near future. And I just, on the very last note, the weather's really turned the last week, so I can probably safely say I've had my last swim in the St. Lawrence River for the year, and unless I do decide to join a polar bear club. Just want to thank everyone. The staff did a great job this summer. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people down at that beach, the splash pad and the pool. Centennial Park really has become the place to be in the summertime here, and it's something that I think we just need to do even more to market it locally, because that to me is the way we bring people into Prescott, especially in those summer months. And that's how we can get the downtown more active as well, because I think it's it's really just a hop, skip, and a jump from that corner of St. Lawrence and King Street to the core of downtown Prescott. We already have Katarina's there taking well advantage of those crowds in a commercial way and providing great food, treats, coffee for people throughout the year, but particularly in the summertime. And I think this could be a real way we help promote our downtown more fully in the summer as a destination, at least a daytime destination for that beach, pool, and splash pad. It's actually already happening, and I think we just need to promote it a little more. But thanks to everyone who visited Prescott this summer. Took the time to come to Centennial Park and use those facilities, and drop a couple bucks in downtown Prescott as well. It's all much appreciated, even as it's hard to believe today that we were just swimming not very long ago. It's fall seems to be here. So that's it for me this evening. I'll move on to 11 outside boards, committees, and commissions, and start as always with Councillor Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'm going to keep it nice and short, and we have a big agenda, so I will leave it at that. Thank you.
That was extremely short, Councillor Burton. Thanks very much. Councillor Jansman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. As you mentioned, we had a very, very full agenda with the BIA last week, and they gave an update on the Thanksgiving turkey trot, which apparently was a great success. So lots of feathers So you might have seen that at the town clock. They also provided an update on on October 30th. There is going to be a Halloween market, and already there's over 30 vendors participating. So that's wonderful. And the BIA is having pumpkins at businesses and such. So that's going to be a real day to look forward to. We had staff updates during that meeting. Elizabeth gave us an update on the digital Main Street. Justin gave us an update as the coordinator. They're improving the agenda to streamline the meetings, and he had various different updates. Dana provided was in attendance as well and provided a staff update regarding the news active newsletter. But as you mentioned, Mayor Todd, a lot of discussion took place regarding the holiday lights for our downtown on the poles. So really something exciting, a lot of exciting things are going to happen. So I just am going to leave it as a mystery a little bit, but BIA is very, very active. Outside of my portfolio, but just as a positive feedback comment, I went to the new dog park in Prescott with Archie, and kudos to that. It's apparently really, from what I understand, from the different people that were there with me, that they go often, and so I just wanted to share that with people to make sure people know to go there, because it's very, very fun. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jansman. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I have nothing for this evening, but I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate Councillor Calabas from Brockville, who is the new mayor of Brockville. He was appointed from within, from council. I served with Mike on the St. Lawrence Lodge Board for 8 years. He's a very capable man, and I know he'll do a very good job. But I think the way Mayor Baker lost his position is pretty chintzy, and I would like us as a town council to send a letter to Brockville commiserating, I guess you might say, with Mr. Baker and his loss of job, and congratulating Mike for his new position. I think that's something that we should do.
Good point, Councillor McConnell, and all the news in the last few days in particular. It's been kind of a busy time, and Jason's resignation, abrupt resignation, and Mike's taking on the chain of office there. Is, I should have mentioned it off the top, but thanks for mentioning that. Congratulations to new Mayor Calabas, and we will send something out officially. I was reaching out to him this week to talk to Mike about a few items as well, but excellent points. And Mike will be an excellent replacement for Jason, although it is really, really sad to lose Mayor Baker as well. He's long been a good friend, and a buddy from way back in high school. Actually, we actually had South Grenville grads running Brockville and Prescott, I guess, for a while. If that's good or bad, but it was interesting anyway. So Jason will be very much missed, but we'll make sure we send something on, and with congratulations as well. Thanks very much for bringing that up, Lee. Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing much from me, just one item. I was approached by our Legion a week or two ago about helping with their audit team. It's something I'd done a couple of years ago with Terry Beach, the treasurer. They've been asked to do a special audit at this time due to the COVID grants they've received in the past year or so. But I guess all the Legions are being asked for you might say, a mid-year audit of sorts. So I've been helping out with that, and that's about it for me. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Councillor Shankar, please.
Yes, just quickly, we had a fundraising meeting that you attended as well, and the money's still coming in. which is great. I know there's plans for a big dinner next summer that's coming through as well. So that's very good news. And speaking of the Legion, I saw Councillor Ostrander there on Thursdays. They're starting up their meals again, lunches and dinners. So, you know, shout out to the hundreds of people that are watching this live. Maybe they could support the Legion and grab a meal for them. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. You probably added a couple of zeros to that attendance number, but I haven't looked at it tonight. You never know. I don't know if that'd be good or bad if it was that many people. And as always, we end on a high note with Councillor Young.
Well, not tonight, Brett. Thank you. I have attended no meetings since our last report.
Well, that's good and quick. There's nothing wrong with that. Thanks, Ray, and thanks everyone for the updates this evening. So we'll move on to staff tonight. We do have quite a number of reports under staff this evening. Under item 12, so 12.1 is staff report 96-2021 community services update. That's been just provided for information, but I'll invite Samantha Jodwell Miller to discuss some of the highlights here, because Sam, you've obviously been awfully busy and there's some great stuff in your report. So if you want to just take us through that those top line items really quickly.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'll just do a summary of what we have here in the report. There are a lot of different moving pieces. I think one that I have noticed, we are getting more and more inquiries about facility bookings, and it's become clear that there is a need to have a defined booking process. So we're in I would say the middle stages of getting that completed and being able to offer it. The intent is that this package will create a defined process across all facilities. The only thing that may differ could be the rental fee involved with the facility. But what we really wanted to get to was to have a facility user agreement that also served as a way to initiate the topic of insurance and whether or not the people that are renting that space require third-party insurance or if they have their own. So that's what this package is serving to do. And we really just want to make it a way so that it's better service towards the people that are looking to use these facilities, that we provide them with all of the information that they need specific to their event, and also supply them with the appropriate contacts to know who they need to contact and why ahead, well in advance of their event. So it's a planning tool for sure, but also a way to initiate important conversations with the people that are looking for these spaces. As we talk about spaces, I can move on to the Leo Boyvin Community Center. We do continue to get more and more inquiries about this space, which is very, very exciting. You can see here, we have been pretty active already in the past couple of months. We do have regular pickleball schedule out now. Our Wednesday evenings are great. The numbers are fantastic. We do have all 6 courts full every Wednesday, with people waiting on the sidelines to play. So that's exciting to see. Walker House was in there for the first time today for their fitness classes. So they'll be in there weekly, as well as we are going to open up the walking club again as well. And Walker House will be a part of that. We are working with one of the teams from South Grenville Minor Hockey Association. They are using this facility for dryland training. And we're also in conversations with a local basketball organization too about using this space. So all very exciting progress. We are already booking into 2022 for bigger events, actually. So the vaccination clinics will continue out through the end of the year. There will be the Kinsman annual craft show. The South Grenville craft show will be here in November, actually, and then looking forward into 2022, the small business trade show, as well as the Laughs at the Leo fundraising event, are all planned for 2022, and there's more coming. So in order, again, to provide better service or top-notch service, we are considering and looking at floor plans for the Leo when it comes to the recreational side of things. So you can see that in the report. What it does show is 6 pickleball courts, which is what we currently have taped on the floor, two almost full-size basketball courts, and then lines for ball hockey as well. So those are the 3 that those are the 3 sports that we currently have interest for, but they can also be used for other those lines can also be used for other sports. For example, ball hockey can be used for indoor soccer if needed. The basketball courts we could break up as volleyball courts. So there are a number of ways we can utilize the lines in this display for other multi-purposes as well. So that's where we're at with the Leo Boyvin Community Center, and then we can talk about the museum. So plans are underway. We are in the building. I know there's a lot of curiosity as to what's happening there. It's a very exciting space, and one that's going to serve as a community museum and a place that will tell Prescott's story and become a place where people want to come back to. Just to give you an idea of what the planned layout is, it's kind of going to be divided into 4 or 5 sections. The front entrance will serve as the lobby area, and it will be a spot for both the museum itself as well as tourism and a visitor center. Moving beyond the lobby area is what we're going to call the permanent exhibit. And this is what really tells Prescott's history. And that's going to be broken into 6 different themes. So you can see the themes listed there, but Aboriginal history, military, prominent citizens, commerce and industry, transportation, sports, and community organizations. Those are what we will have on display will address each of these topics and again, tell the story of Prescott. Beyond that, that space is a smaller space, but this is going to serve as a temporary exhibit, and it's going to be kind of rotational. So whether that's monthly or bi-monthly, we do have a lot within our collection, and not everything will be able to be displayed at one time. And as a way to pull people back to the museum, having this rotational exhibit is a way to continue to keep people coming back. So as we get started in December, as we aim to open in December, what we would like this space to be is kind of like a Santa's village, and an opportunity to have your photo taken with Santa, and invite to see the space for the first time. There's also going to be a media room that's going to serve as a space for technology and interactive displays, as well as potentially a green screen where you can go in and run interviews and have that media aspect, kind of hands-on opportunity as well. And then finally, a small space for the children's area, so that if a family does come in and parents want to look at the displays, the kids can go. If the kids if they don't want to look at the displays, then they have a space to go and get creative as well. The new door has been installed. I'm sure everybody has seen that as they go through downtown. The new windows will be going in as well, and we're currently working on lighting. I did include a proposed storefront sign that you can see here. I do just want to say that it's not yellow. It's not supposed to be yellow, it's gold. And so it's not beige and it's not yellow. What we tried to do here is tie into the colors that are existing, as some of them do go over into the St. Lawrence Shakespeare office. But then when we look at the 3 sites that are there in that historic feel, we chose the historic colors as well as ones that complement the other storefronts as well. So that is everything that I have to say.
That was fantastic. Thanks, thanks so much for that great report. A lot of great things are moving forward. I'll open it up for comments from members of council, please. Councillor Shankar.
Just a big shout out to Samantha. It's nice to see this plan coming together. It captures a lot of the things we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years since the Leo became became multi-purposed instead of singularly purposed. And also the museum. Nice to see it's going to be multi-purpose as well. It's nice to see those things all captured and moving forward. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Other comments, questions? Seeing none, so we'll move on. And thanks again, Samantha, for that great report. Just want a quick comment on the museum. I want to thank Fraser Lassensher for his involvement with, I think he's got a couple other volunteers who I just don't know who they are, so I can't credit them this evening. Not trying to skip over everyone, but I know Fraser's been leading the way there, and just got an email from him today actually about the history of the actual the building that we're going into and how appropriate it is as it ties into the commercial history of the downtown and so forth. So really excited about this. It's a real statement that we're serious about our heritage in Prescott, and we're serious about marketing tourism with this presence right on the main street. So I know I'm very excited for Founders Day this year when we can get that facility opened up, and next summer as well, as we really see travelers coming in, and I think we can do a great job down there educating people to our history and also marketing to tourists. So thanks again, Samantha, for the great report this evening. And moving right along, 12.2, we do have staff report 97-2021, our fire department's third quarter report. This is also just for recommendation, but I see Chief Rayner has taken the time to join us this evening. So Rennie, do you have anything you'd like to add to the report, or like to go over the report and hit some of the highlights for us tonight?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. So I'll just quickly go over highlights for July, August, and September. With COVID kind of easing up a little bit with some restrictions, we were able to go back to our main training groups. So as you can see, we did some JAWS training, river drafting, aerial operations. Our new CCAN, we put in service in September. It's north of the Ediendo Operations Center. So it's great to be able to have live fire in there. We just burn just hay or straw, so it's very safe, but it certainly gives our newer members the experience to see what a fire does and how it behaves. Fire prevention was busy doing our annual evacuation inspections at Mayfield Retirement Residence, as well as Wellington House. It's annual compliance with the fire code. Tracy and Brent were very busy with the Fire Prevention Week as well, preparing for that. Even though that's October, I'll give that update in my next quarter report. We had a train derailment on September 2nd, and through that, if you see the bottom picture of the CN rail car, we were fortunate enough to work with Francois Boucher, who's the operations manager of CN, as well as Eva Mel, who's the dangerous goods officer, and JP Couture, who is with RailCan. The rail car was supposed to be in Baton Rouge weeks before it came to Prescott. And we were lucky that working with Eve, we were able to have that training session. And with their span of control, we were able to invite Chief Bowman and two of his officers, as well as Chief Moore and two of their officers. So we had a joint training session, and it was very, very successful. I'd just like to mention some anniversaries for the department. Deputy Chief Gilmore has 36 years of service in July. Mike Sears, a firefighter, 4 years. Firefighter George Lochte, 4 years, and Gord Brooks, 4 years as well. That's my very brief report.
Thanks so much, Chief, and already offered, we've all offered our thanks for your great service that the whole department during the train derailment. And it's something when you consider just what a serious emergency that was, but how much worse it could have been if not for the, we got fortunate, I guess, first and foremost, you have to say that, but the great work that you guys did along with all other first responders on the scene. I mean, now it's just become, it's, basically it's one line and a resulting, photo in the report where it could have obviously been much, much, much more. And it's through your dedication and the work of the whole crew that we took what could have been a serious major crisis and turn it in just a regular old train derailment. So we really lucked out on that, but it's you make your own luck too. So thanks again for all of your hard work, and thanks for the report. I'll open it up for comments, questions from members of council. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'd like to compliment Chief Rayner on inviting our neighbors in for that training as well. I mean, the railroad track runs through Prescott, but it doesn't stop and begin here. It runs through our neighbors as well. And yes, we have had 2 derailments in town in recent years, but they could just as easily have been a half a mile either way. And we would have been assisting their fire departments rather than them assisting us. So compliments to them on including our neighbors in that training.
Thank you, Councillor.
Great point, Lee. We're all in it together, especially where that rail line is concerned, and the 401 as well, as far as that goes. Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Chief. I see the year-to-date calls are at 127 for this year. How does that compare to last year?
Thank you, Councillor. So at this point in time, last year, we had 105 calls compared to 127. So an increase of 22 calls. I did a little bit of research on that. It's pretty well an increase of most the average calls across the board. Some medical assists, public assists, some burn complaints, and some increase in calls to our neighboring municipalities that we serve.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Councillor Young. Any other comments from members of council this evening? Seeing none, so I'll thank the Chief again for his report tonight and all his hard work on an ongoing basis. Good to see you, Rennie. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Your worship.
And on to item 12.3, that's staff report 98-2021 waste fees method feedback and recommendation. Recommendation reads that council directs staff to implement a waste tag system to replace the current garbage sales system once the current inventory of garbage bags has been exhausted. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Young. Nathan, your report this evening, if you could take us through the findings of the survey. Got a fair bit of feedback there, and also your recommendations and the reasons for it this evening.
Hey, thank you, Mayor Todd. I believe Matthew will probably take this one this evening.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we did do a public survey coming out of our last discussions about garbage bags with council. We had 204 responses over a 10-day period, and 80% of those who responded noted that there had been issues with the bags within the last 2 years. 88% identified that there was ripper tearing issues, 42% puncture, or 71% noted bags dripping at the seams. 38% of respondents had 10 or more issues, 20% had 1 to 4 bags with issues, 19% 5 to 9 with issues, and so on and so forth. 53% of respondents had 3 to 5 people living in that household, and 72% of respondents produced 1 or 2 bags of household garbage per week. 44% were dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with current garbage bags. 30% were neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, and 26% were satisfied or very satisfied. 53% of respondents indicated that they would prefer a sticker or a tag system. 47% noted that they would prefer town bags from a new supplier. So we did reach out to other municipalities in Eastern Ontario. 17 replied and provided responses, and 13 of the 17 charge waste fees. So really those were the ones that we were looking at. Of those 13, 1 used a bin system, which small, medium, large, and they charge an annual fee. 10 use tags system, and 2 sell garbage bags. We did note that of the 2 that sell garbage bags, 1 of them has actually moved away from that system and gone to a different concept. So really, out of all the respondents, there's only 1 other that's actually using garbage bags, and they did note that recently they've been having quality issues as well with the ones that they've through their vendor and supplier. So the 10 municipalities that use garbage tags range from $1 to $4.25 per bag, and with the average being $2.50. So when we took a look from an analysis standpoint, vast majority of municipalities that provided feedback use tags to collect their waste fees. The public service or the public survey also noted that the majority would be in favor of this. And currently we use obviously we sell the bags for $1.50 each. We sell anywhere from 100 to 150,000 bags per year. Certainly last year was a large year, as well as this year is another large year. And A couple of items that we've noted. One, obviously, more people staying at home with COVID and fewer eating out, those types of things. That should now change a little bit so that people are able to return to restaurants. Also, obviously, recycling as the number of items that are recyclable decrease, then the garbage goes up. So right now, we're generating anywhere from $160,000 to $175,000 in waste fees per year. And then the current cost of garbage bags is in the $23,000 to $24,000 range. So we would expect tags to cost less than the current garbage bags, but we would also expect there to be fewer tags sold, simply because we're not regulating the size of the bags that you can put out. The only regulation would be in terms of the overall weight of the bag, which I believe is 40 pounds. So we would expect fewer tags to be sold in that case. Many households identified that they put out more than one bag, and so we would expect those with multiple bags to actually decrease their overall number. So while the amount would stay the same and we would save on the cost of producing the bags, there's still the cost of the tags, and we would expect revenue to decrease. So we are expecting that the current inventory of bags will be exhausted sometime in the winter, right towards the springtime, and at which time we could transition to the tag system at that point. So that's what we found out from the public survey and from our evaluation and analysis of different municipalities that did respond. And that's what we put forward in front of you this evening. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matthew, and Nathan as well. Great report, a lot of good data there. And I want to thank everybody in town that did come forward with the issues and fill out the survey and give us some good data here to consider this evening. So open it up for comments, questions from members of council. Anyone have any questions or observations on the report tonight? Councillor Burton, please, and then Councillor McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I think this is a step in the right direction. We need a change, and we did try the tags years ago, and they weren't very successful, and that's why we went to the bags. And now we're having a problem with the bags. So I think it's time to go back, and I know there's different technology out there for creating the tags, and I think it's a step in the right direction. So I'm definitely going to be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burton. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'm glad Councillor Burton mentioned the fact that we've been here before, because this seems like a great big deja vu to me. We did have tags, and she's right, they weren't very successful because they would not stick very well to the plastic in cold weather. I'm hoping this time that the tags that we make or buy or whatever way we're going to procure them are longer, so you can actually go around at the top of the bag and secure the two ends of the tag together, because that's the only way you can get them to stay on. And I really hope that we do that. But we may wind up with the same problem that we had before when we had the bags, and that is people coming in from out of town and dropping their bags at the end of somebody's driveway. They won't have a tag on it. And if the garbage truck comes along and sees a bag without a tag, they leave it. Well, all of a sudden you got a bag at the end of your driveway that you didn't put out. What are they going to do? They're going to call the town, and we're going to pick it up. So I don't know how that's going to go. We're going to have to monitor it, I guess. One question that I would like to have seen asked, though, in the survey that we did, a certain amount of people have had a garbage bag, one of the blue town bags, rip either on a seam or when you were taking apart. And I've had the same thing. I think I've had 2 or 3 rip over the last couple of years. But whether it's the clear bags that you put leaves in, the orange bags that you put leaves in, or the dark greenish black bags that you put trash in, how many people would have had those bags that ripped in the last year? And I think it's probably, you're going to find an equal percentage. There is no perfect bag. We can go with the paper bags, but unfortunately, if you leave them in the rain too long, they're going to have the bottom go out of them, and that's not a good idea either. I will support this. I was not in favor of it because I thought we had gone down this road and we'd made the change and let's stick with it. But when I saw that a slim majority of the people that responded were in favor of going to the tags, then I will support their view and I'll vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Matt, any comment on that with regards to durability, stickability of the new tags? Obviously, I think it has been, it should be noted, it's been, what, 25 plus years since we had a tag system in town. It's been quite a while. So it hasn't changed under any of the current group staff or council. So I'm assuming, the technology's changed quite a bit, and things have gotten much cheaper in that regard too, with specialty printing jobs. We've talked about this. I think we talked about some potential suppliers and some options. Matt and I did just last week again. Do you want to just share that with everyone on council so everyone knows how much attention is being paid to the detail here, so we're not running into quality issues?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So really, one of the things that we're striving for is to make it long enough so that it will double back on itself and therefore it can stick to itself. So that's one of the key things that we're looking at. We have been in contact with other municipalities. Kingston has a well laid out tag system that's long, kind of thin, but still substantial, and then it's able to double back. So we also took a look at North Grenville's, and there is a local print company that supplies them, and they've had no complaints on them either. So we have absolutely been taking into consideration. We don't want it to stick to the bag because so many bags are so variable. Sometimes even just the consistency of the bag will keep it from sticking, as well as there's garbage bags that we use at home that kind of have that stretchability built into them. But when you do that, then trying to stick a sticker to that becomes problematic. So we absolutely want to go with more of a one that goes around the top of the bag that you can clearly put on, doubles back on itself, and then the adhesive in and of itself will secure it as it should be. So yeah, that's certainly something that we've taken a look at, try to understand, make sure that whatever we come up with will have the appropriate stickability, and really it's being able to be long enough to stick on itself that will be key. In terms of people dumping garbage, that sort of thing, certainly if we catch any hint of that, we will investigate and make sure that that doesn't become an issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. Further comments, questions from members of council this evening? Seeing none, I just want to chime in with my support on this. It's been a long time coming, actually. I know we did go to the bag system way back when, the paper bags. That actually was in part to help out, prop up a town business that has since left Prescott. That's why we had that innovative paper bag system for quite some time. But we haven't had that for a long time now because of, well, cost of paper is quite high for bags. And also it's just, it's much easier to get a supplier and to bring in the plastic. And I know we will have, none of these systems are going to be perfect. There will be probably attempts to defraud. There will be illegal dumping, but, we deal with a certain amount of that now. And in addition, we have the garbage bag quality issue, which I was actually surprised at the numbers being as high as they are, although, the majority of people who are going to respond to something like this are going to be people that have encountered problems. But when you've got 88% of respondents reporting tearing and ripping issues with the bags, and I've seen it myself, we've probably all seen it here that use these, because we all use these bags on a regular basis. So it only makes sense, I think, going forward now. So do we have any idea, I know we can't fully forecast this, but when next year we'll be sort of running out of supply, when we'll be making this changeover?
We don't have a finite date on that, but we do expect it to be shortly after the new year. And really, it depends on just how much garbage. We're expecting a bit of a decline in our sales now that restaurants are more open for business. And so that will have a big determinant on what it looks like going forward.
The only thing I'd say is there probably should be, and you've probably already considered this, but there should be kind of a period of time where we're supporting both systems, just kind of phase out the bags. So obviously, as soon as we get into the new year, if you could come back and let us know an approximate date so we can really publicize this through council and through our friends and neighbors as well, because there's obviously going to be some people don't like change. So there'll be a little bit of that. Anyways, thanks so much for the report. And one more call for comments. Councillor Young, please.
Just to be clear, Brett, on what you just said, the bags will always be accepted, I'm sure. Yep. Even if somebody has a supply of them that takes them into March or April or June or whatever, they will always be accepted, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, Ray. I should have been clear on that. I'm just talking about the actual active sales. Right. But yeah, well, we're going to accept them for as long as people have them. Well, at least I shouldn't say that, because at some point we're going to want to cut that off, I would think, because you could get to I guess we've never had that though. I mean, I'm just surprised no one's ever found a supply of the same color bags and just painted peas on them, to be absolutely blunt. But yeah, at any rate, that's something for the future. But yeah, we will continue to accept the bags, of course. Thanks for the clarity. Anyone else have any further comments before I call the vote? Seeing none, I'll call a question. Then all in favor. Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And we're up to 12.4. That's staff report 99-2021 winter maintenance update. Recommendation is that council direct staff to implement the suggested modifications to the winter maintenance policy regarding the plowing of sidewalks and walkways and the removal of snowbanks between the sidewalk and the road. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Mr. Richard, I believe this one is you again, unless you want to punt it over to Matt.
No, not this one. Thanks, Mayor Todd. Yeah, so we're kind of reporting back again on snow removal activities. So we did have a public survey that got some feedback on winter operations, and the summary was 131 participants, and most people were pretty happy with the service of snow removal within the town. With the timing and the effectiveness of it. The survey did show a couple spots that we could improve upon, so we wanted to take the opportunity to do that. The first one was the removal of snowbanks between the sidewalks and the roads, and number two was the salting and plowing of the actual sidewalks. So we were to report back this month and give you an update on where we are. So the one thing I will kind of preface, we did a report in March, staff report 23/2021, where it did go through the point that there are succinct mandated priorities kind of regulated through the province that we do need to follow during snow events, and that is of course, the roads are number one, and then the sidewalks are number two, and then we move on to parking lots and then the snow removal activities. So depending on the volume of snow and how hard it's coming down, it kind of dictates where the energy goes to take care of the snow. So the first one is removal of snow banks between the sidewalk and the road. So one of the things that did come up, and I think we probably are doing a little bit of it, but we want to do a little more this year, and that's where we want to move some of the snow that lies between the road and the sidewalk, kind of from there, not form a bank, but we want to push it onto some of the yards, and not everybody's yard, but I think we want to look at the yards that are, a couple of examples are Fort Wellington and the town hall. I think we already do that. Walker House, parks, and churches. So some of the properties that have much larger setbacks, that it's not going to impact the property at all if some of that snow ends up on their grassed area. A property type 2 would be open field access properties like the golf course and schools, and then other areas kind of deemed acceptable by the operations team leader or designate. So some of those examples again are the churches, town hall. We do it there. Potentially kind of up along the where the high school is. So different areas like that, we're gonna look at and make sure that we're doing our best to move the snow in one shot instead of doing two separate operations there. And another kind of small point here, there was an old undersized sidewalk that was at the southern end of Duke Street that was not getting plowed because of its width. And so that was reconstructed as part of the Dibble Street project. And so we'll be able to do regular sidewalk plowing there now. So the next step is the actual snow removal. So typically we do that if it's going to impede normal traffic flow, or if the snow is causing sightline problems. And then also if it's causing hindrance for people to get out of their cars. So ideally on King and Center Street. And then additional snow removal is in the cul-de-sacs and dead ends. So the the snow removal priority hasn't changed. It still continues to stay the same, where we have Edward Street, the Fire Hall, King Street, and then we go to the post office area where Center Street and Henry Street are, and then the Town Hall and the Health Center and Walker House, and then we move on to areas north of the tracks, and then south of the tracks and west of Edward, and then the areas south of the tracks and east of Edward. So the other thing that the staff were doing last year was removing some of the snow at some of these banks during the daytime hours as well. Certainly not as fast as it happens in the midnight shifts when they have the big snow blower and several dump trucks. But it does eat away at it, and it does make it a little bit better on those when they go to the midnight shifts to remove the snow. So the other thing that this will do, if we can remove some of the snow from as the snow comes down, if we can take some of the snow I was mentioning and move it onto some of the properties, that'll minimize the amount of melting that could go on there with that snowbank and kind of go and create problems on the sidewalks with creating ice situations. And the other thing that we're looking at too, we did just have a discussion with the student transportation of Eastern Ontario last year, kind of later in the year, and they did provide us their bus stops that they stop at and pick kids up and drop kids off at. It is a private information where these stops are, but we will keep in contact with them this year and make sure that if there's any spots that they do need to have snow blowed out or cleared out, that we'll make sure that we do that. Yeah, so those are some of the things we're going to work on this year, and that's the end of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Open it up for comments and questions, but start off by thanking you for the report. And also just to note, I think we've got the best snow clearing in Ontario as far as I've witnessed here and travels around the province, but even the best can always be a little bit better. So great to get the feedback and to look at what we can change and even improve upon our already superb record. Open up for comments, questions, anything from members of council this evening. Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Thank you, Nathan, for the report. I wanted to mention the end of Woodland Drive. They've changed the pickup location for St. Mark's School. So it used to be on the east side of the school. Now it's the west side of the school. So I know that we pile a lot of snow just right on the end of Woodland there, and just wondering if we could push it just a little bit more west in that little location, because the street is full of cars, and they're probably from about 3:30 till about 4:15. Woodland Drive is pretty packed of cars and parents and students walking, so we could just clear that area a little bit more. That would be fantastic. I'm sure the parents would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burton. Great point there to try to help out around the school. Anything else from members of council this evening? Looks like no further comments. Just call the vote in a moment. The one thing I just did want to draw attention to just briefly is, we did another survey here. We did a survey on the garbage bags as well, and don't want to make too much of this and break my arm patting ourselves on the back, but I mean, we do a lot of public surveys. We do solicit a lot of public involvement, and to me that just really, it's something we should note, because I don't know many other municipalities that do that as much of it as we do. And I think that just ensures that we always have public involvement in our decisions. So while we show leadership at the table here, we're definitely getting public input on anything and everything. So it's just a sign of good government, and I think it's it's something that we need to kind of call out on occasion. And anytime we can do this, we have been doing it. And I think, we'll continue to do it in the future, because it really does help with these reports and makes our jobs a little bit easier too, because instead of just the 7 of us making the decisions around here, we actually get public feedback into anything and everything. So, and I'll mention that to anybody who happens to be watching too. Any issues come forward, please approach us, any member of council, myself, staff, and we'll do our best to help with whatever issue you're having here in Prescott. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And moving back to the agenda, so 12.5 is staff report 100, woohoo, 2021, 100 reports, so we're not even close to the end of the year. That shows you right there how much our staff's been doing as well, folks. Property standards bylaw, vacant buildings, registry bylaw, and the administrative monetary penalties, otherwise known as the AMP bylaw. Recommendation is that council directs staff to make the recommended changes to the property standards bylaw, vacant buildings registry bylaw, and the administrative monetary penalties bylaw, and that these bylaws be brought to the council meeting of November 1st, 2021 for review and consideration. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor Shankar. So we will move that forward this evening. We've had a lot of good discussion on that. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Merriman for any further comments, and then solicit additional comments from council. Sean, please take it away.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. So this is kind of a summation of all the changes that have been been talked about over the last several months, including at even the last council meeting, where we had enhanced some of the additional details on the property standards bylaws. It did delve into a little bit more about roofs and chimneys and unfinished buildings or structures and stuff like that, and about how long they can stay there. We were very fortunate that we had a lot of great feedback, and it also helps when you got many eyes looking at the bylaws, because sometimes things get put in there that may have had a reason, but really when you think about it and you step back and you go, does it really still have a thing? So there was a lot of things in there that was related to height that Councillor McConnell questioned me about. And the reality is it didn't really even match what was in the building code. So the request is just simply to take it back, that it should be as per the building code when it relates to height. Also, the vacant building section in the property standards bylaw will be adjusted so that it'll cross-reference that it needs to be registered with the other bylaw, to remind the people that they got to kind of read them together. And also, one of the things that happens with winter coming along is people start putting up the temporary vehicle shelters and stuff like that, often in town and stuff like that. So it really belongs in the garage and carport section, and it'll have very specific wording that deals with the overall size, how long it can be there, who's responsible to make sure it's properly ground anchored, and to make sure that it's taken down if requested by the town, basically, because it's got issues. Also, due to some other things that have happened lately, the electrical service section shall clearly indicate that the use of generators to provide electrical service to a property shall be limited to provide emergency backup power only for a maximum of 3 days, unless approval for a longer period is obtained by the town. There are certainly times when it can be needed, but there's also many times when it's not really needed for longer than, a couple of days. Another thing that has come up fairly often, and it was pointed out to me by both members of the public and council, is that although a person has the right to work on their own RV, boat, whatever the case may be, in their own property, it is really important that when they're doing it, it can't go to the point that it becomes infringent upon the other neighbor's enjoyment of the property. Some people are almost to the point that, they're working on so many vehicles and working on so many friends' vehicles and everything else. It's almost like they're living next door to a repair shop. And that was never the intent. The intent was certainly to let you change your own tire if you want, but at the same point, you weren't necessarily expected to constantly have a parade of vehicles in and out of your yard being worked on. So then we got into the penalties. As you can see, they do increase with each subsequent offense, with the purpose being that we are trying to get the people to realize that it's not appropriate to hurt their neighbors and the others in the community by continuing the action. And then we move into the vacant building registry bylaw. Based on the initial discussion with council, it has been increased from 90 days to 180. What's funny is the fees. I got a lot of feedback in both directions on that, because the concept of the fees is not to be a burden to someone that's actively trying to rent, but at the same point, it's also supposed to be more than just someone saying, well, that's the price of doing business. I'll just still leave it there empty and pay whatever the fee is. And, you know, because that's what happens if the fee is way too low. Coupled with the fact that we are not looking to make this, the registry itself, a burden on the average taxpayer. We're looking at it to be a cost that's basically covered by the building owner, that's specific to the building. And so with working with the fire department and with Matthew and going through some stuff, coupled with the fact that people would like to see the money returned or reimbursed if someone gets it rented right away, we broke it all down and we went from $1,000 a year really to $900 a year. That'll be billed every 6 months. And that works out to $75 per month, which is still a very reasonable number. But more importantly, the policy refund will be that if should someone rent it out, they can certainly apply for the rebate that they'd be entitled to, you know, rounded to the nearest month. So, I mean, when you get back to the fact that when they get it rented out, that they're not overpaying for something that they're not going to use. Yeah. So that was the big stuff that came about with the vacant building registry. The administrative monetary penalty systems bylaw really had very little changes. I did speak with a few members of the OPP, including the community member who helps with the people that have emotional issues and stuff like that, or mental health issues. And he thought this would actually be a really great way to address it. And so all three bylaws will be brought before council on November 1st for review and consideration. Staff is recommending an implementation date of January 1st for all three bylaws, but this can be adjusted at the direction of council. The whole purpose of this timeline is to make sure that staff has enough time to create the policies and forms and procedures to allow for a smooth transition, so that when the members of public are coming in, we know how things are going to be working, and we can easily and smoothly tell them about it. It also gives us time to recruit and train committee members or hearing officers as needed. And last, but probably most important, it gives us an opportunity to educate the general public. Because again, we're not really interested in enforcement. We're more interested in compliance when and where possible. So the concept is to help the people that do find themselves on the wrong side of the property standards bylaw, but it's also to help the people also that may want to consider the property standards bylaw when they have concerns about their neighbors, to give a chance for everyone to become more fully educated within the town. And that is my report, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Merriman, for the update and the changes that have been implemented so far. So open it up for members of council for comments, questions, additional feedback with regards to these new bylaws. Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Interestingly enough, on one walk last weekend, I ran into two members of the public that both had comments on the property standards bylaw. So the interest is out there, which is good to see. Both actually were concerned about the same thing, I guess it was. And what that is, excuse me, is folks who let bushes, trees, hedges grow to the point where they impair the vision of a motorist at a corner. And we all know those are around town. Very often a hedge, for example, is planted by one person or one property owner who intends to keep it cut short, and for whatever reason they sell their house. Next person comes in and has no interest in maintaining a hedge, and pretty soon it's way out of hand. The trees that are planted on corners, the one gentleman complained about one corner in particular. I actually went out, I walked home and took the car out for a drive around town to see what these folks were actually talking about. And some of the trees that are causing the viewing problem are actually trees that have been planted by the town, and they've been planted too close to the corner. And yes, you don't have any problem seeing up and down the street when you're on the sidewalk, but if you happen to be in a car, well, then you have to get out past that tree to see what's going on. So we should be very careful where we're planting trees on town property. And I believe there should be something in the property standards bylaw to indicate that you should not be able to plant or maintain a tree, bush, hedge, or fence in such a position or such a way that it provides a barrier to a good sight line at a corner. So I think that's something that should be added in. And I was thinking about that actually today, and going a little bit further and walking around town, you can see people that have planted hedges, and typically somebody plants a hedge on their property line, which isn't a real big problem, except when their property line happens to be about 2 feet or 3 feet from a neighbor's house. And when that hedge is allowed to go 5 feet wide by 15 feet high, all of a sudden the people in the affected house really have lost enjoyment of their own property, because they get no sunshine on that side of the house. It's dark as a tomb. And you can take a walk and drive around town, and you can find houses like that, where the intent originally was just a property line, but it's changed hands. The hedge has grown up, and it has taken away the neighbor's enjoyment of their house. So I think there should be something in the property standards bylaw that addresses the maximum height of a hedge, and even possibly how close you can put it to a neighbor's property. I think that should be explored. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McConnell. All great points. Sean, any comment on those issues with particularly the blocking traffic? Because that is it's gotten worse in town actually in recent years, I think. Because I don't know if we're not enforcing that enough and knocking on enough doors or what, but there are quite a number of corners that are problematic.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, through you. Yes, I received Councillor McConnell's email. I believe it was late last night. It might have been first thing this morning. And I did not have a chance to take a look at it today, Councillor McConnell. I can tell you most of that is already addressed in our fence bylaw. However, we, again, kind of like the vacant building registry, we can always make sure if it's not specific enough in the property standards bylaw to direct you to take a look at it and read it together. Basically, hedges or fences in the front yard are limited already to 3.5 feet. They also can impede a sight line. The town does trust on people to report concerns in general before we act on them. However, this year already, Nathan and operations has done a great job reaching out to bylaw, and at least 3 or 4 times this year we've already they've noticed an issue, they passed it on to bylaw, we passed it on to the homeowner, and it's been addressed each and every time. So I think it's maybe not a question of adding more to it, but making sure that we're following through on what's already there and catching it at a sooner point before they get to be 20 feet tall and 15 foot thick.
Thanks very much, Mr. Merriman. Other comments, questions this evening from members of council? Okay, seeing nothing further tonight, I just want to thank Sean again for what's been a very long process here, but a necessary one. We are getting awfully close to the final day here in 2 weeks, where we'll be looking to approve the bylaws. If anyone has any last minute feedback, catch anything, and of course, if staff catch anything at well, please make the changes to the bylaw and just highlight them for us in 2 weeks. The only comment I'd have myself is just on and I think you've covered it, Sean, just although maybe it needs to be even a little broader. And I know it's covered elsewhere with regards to usage and the different zoning designations in town. But just that bit about no storage of such vehicles, boats, trailers, completion of repairs or work upon such items. I don't know if that needs to be broadened just a bit, because I'm not going to refer to the specific location because it's an ongoing bylaw issue. But I mean, we've had people in town currently and in the past operate almost full-blown body shops, metal shops, and so forth in their property. So I don't know if that needs to be broadened just a bit, so we make sure we can catch everybody there, because that's and generally I don't really have a problem with people operating businesses out of their home, because well, that's going to expand anyways in the weeks and years to come with more people working out of their homes. But sometimes it just goes right over to infringing on the enjoyment of property by neighbors. And just to make sure that's completely covered off there, that would be my only comment. And I'll talk to you, Sean, afterward. You know exactly where I'm going here, but I can't say anything about this situation publicly because it's an ongoing matter. But that's actually, there's a couple items here that we've talked about the last couple of weeks that have kind of a perfect storm situation that's pointed to some areas where we probably do need to beef it up even more. And Sean's provided those already, and glad to see it. So at any rate, no further comments I'm seeing. So I will return back to the motion and call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And thanks again, Sean, for the work on this one. You'll be pretty happy, I'm sure, to finally get this one passed and off your desk. So we are on to 12.6, that's staff report 101, 2021 modernization initiatives. Recommendation is that council approve the following projects to be supported by the modernization funding received from the province of Ontario in 2019. Item 1, water and wastewater treatment plant SCADA software for $94,292 plus HST. Item 2, fire radio communications repeater for $36,365 plus HST. And last, item 3, eScribe internet publishing module for $5,250 plus HST. I need some water. Could I ask someone to make that motion, please? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by Councillor Burton. Mr. Armstrong, can you please take us through these recommendations?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So in 2019, the municipality of town of Prescott did receive $591,400 as part of municipal modernization. To date, we've allocated $311,000, and what you have before you this evening comes to a total of $136,000 approximately. So the first of the projects is at the water and wastewater treatment plant. With the Windows 7 no longer being supported by Microsoft, we were planning on having to update the computers, but not necessarily the software. And so now we're required to update the software as well. We see this as being a prime candidate for modernization because until we update that software, we won't be able to update the or add any new sensors or pieces of equipment that actually control the overall water treatment plant. So it is a fairly sizable amount. It is critical to running those two plants, and felt it was a good use of funding. The next one is fire radio communications repeater, and there are dead zones in the town of Prescott when it comes to radio communications for the fire department, and specifically, I believe, down by the water, as well as in some of the buildings closer up to the 401. Generally, when you get concrete buildings or buildings built with a large amount of steel, that will have a large bearing on the ability to have radio communications. And so the repeater, there was a used one that was tested to see if the technology worked. And we're happy to say that it worked at all the places that previously dead spots had been identified and worked very well. We also took a look at acquiring the used versus a new repeater. And with the fact that the used repeater is already 10 years old and would require a fair amount of firm upgrades and whatnot, there would be no warranty with it. The difference between a new and used is approximately $12,000. And from a life safety perspective, we thought this was, again, both good for modernization, but also key for maintaining the health and safety of our fire department personnel. And thirdly, the Scribe Internet Publishing Module, as of January 1st of 2022, all of the material that is on municipal website has to be AODA compliant and therefore accessible. And this will allow a much better, straightforward, streamlined process from getting our agenda packages, which is a large amount of material that we add on a regular basis to our website, in that accessible, compliant format, and being able to automate the entire process. So those are the three projects we have in front of you. With these projects, if they were to be approved, that puts us about 147 or 447 of the 591,000 that's been committed, and leaves approximately $144,000 left. One of the reasons we want to get moving on spending the funding is that we can't apply for any further funding intakes until that initial amount is spent. And so we're now looking at all critical projects that could provide for modernization as well as health and safety, and being able to provide not only a better service, but perhaps more efficiently. And so that's certainly what we're looking at in those projects as we come forward.
Thanks very much, Matt. Open it up for comments, questions. Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Matthew. Was that SCADA system in our budget for this particular year in the water and wastewater budget?
It's going to be in the budget for 2022. But we didn't expect to have to spend the $90,000 on software. And so when we originally were creating the budget going forward, we had them in at lower dollar amounts, just having to replace the hardware. And so there is still a $70,000 component for replacing hardware and doing the switch over between the machines. But this is covering the software component of it.
But it's not coming out of the operating budget of the town. It will come out of the funds from water, wastewater, which I assume we will take out of reserves, which we have lots of reserves. I understand that. However, in the income statement that you presented tonight, which we did not discuss, is there an issue that we should be worried about with water and wastewater revenue and expenses this year?
No, so the revenue is always 3 months behind from when we receive it. So we're not able to provide that full information. We are absolutely on budget in terms of our expenses. So we're happy from that perspective. And so far, with the information we've received for revenue, we don't have any concerns that will have any major impact on that. This was one of those areas where we try to keep our water and wastewater for major capital replacements, that sort of thing. So obviously the hardware, software is a little bit more of a soft area, and that's where we thought the modernization would be a good fit for it.
I agree, and you're going to do the accounting, so I have absolutely no worry that it's going to be done correctly. But I assume that some of that modernization, then that fund will go back into the reserves for the water and wastewater plant?
Correct. So it will cover the portion of the project that's related to the software. And so the total project is 170,000. And so a portion of that funding will be moved over both into the water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant. And then it will cover that portion coming through the reserves.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks, Ray. Any further comments, questions on this staff report? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. 12.7, Staff Report 102-2021, Indigenous Peoples Recognition. Recommendation reads that council directs staff to paint 3-meter sections of the east and west ends of the Heritage Trail and the Centennial Park Trail in orange pavement paint, and to work with South Grenville District High School to develop stencils that can be painted onto the orange sections to publicly recognize Indigenous peoples. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Jansman. Mr. Armstrong, I believe this one is you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So really, the recommendation that you see before you this evening is specific to those trails and how we would be able to bring Indigenous recognition to the town of Prescott. The second portion, which isn't part of the recommendation this evening, is allowing a little bit of time for staff, perhaps public council, to develop ideas as part of the 2022 budget, which will start to also tell a story that as we go along the way. So there's a couple of things that we could do. One, using the back side of the marina sign is currently just blank, and so I thought it might be an area that we could do something there. There's also the ability to add plaques along the way to tell a story. And then similar to the symbol that the City of Ottawa is using at their O stations, as well as at City Hall, is the Algonquin wayfinding wheels. So really, we wanted to start with creating the pathways, and then working with South Grenville District High School to create some of the stencils that help tell the story, but then add those other features in 2022 as part of the 2022 budget that start to tell a more fulsome story, and perhaps provide explanation behind some of the symbols that you might see. And so really that's the basis of what we tried to do this evening. As well, at the same time, we are looking at other options in terms of the mural that's going along the side of the Coast Guard. And so South Grenville District High School reached out and asked if putting a mural inside Leo Boyvin that would have an Indigenous look and feel to it, and also tell some of the history and the story there as well, would be appropriate. And certainly we see that as being a great initiative. So as we heard earlier this evening, the Leo Boyvin is being used more and more, and really it's an opportunity to provide cross generational ability to impart some of that knowledge. So those are some of the initiatives that we're coming up with. This evening is really just focusing on the walkways. We will do our best. Certainly the weather has changed in the last few days, but try and at least get the orange paint down. If the stencils are ready and we have a half decent day when it comes to painting, then we'll certainly do that. Otherwise, we'll add the stencils first thing in the spring when the weather allows for, and then continue telling that story using some of those other plaques, symbols, as well as that area on the back side of the marina sign. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I want to thank everyone again for coming on board here. And we had such a great discussion last week. I know I dropped it on everyone at the last minute at that last meeting, but it was great that we had such a great discussion about locations and so on, great dialogue, and it's turned into what I think is a real solid set of recommendations here overall for what we can do now and what we can do next spring when the weather turns better, and we also have a little time over the winter to do the proper research and to decide upon where we want to go with possible additional elements, including telling that story that Matthew mentioned, the history and the reality of the land that we walk upon here. And also that Algonquin wayfinding wheel, I noticed that last week, and I sent it on to Matthew because the City of Ottawa is promoting this really strongly. And aside from the fact they look fantastic, it'd be a gorgeous addition to the waterfront. Obviously, the cultural significance, the Indigenous significance. I mean, I think something like those wayfinding wheels would be a tremendous addition downtown. And, picture one right alongside where that sign is actually that Matt mentioned. I know Councillor McConnell mentioned it as well. Actually, we lost We lost Lee, have we, for a moment? Lee did mention that before about utilizing the back of that sign, and that's a great idea. And the idea of a wayfinding wheel or something right alongside there too would just be a really tremendous way to make that a distinct location to recognize the Indigenous peoples and then recognize the Indigenous history on our land here. So, as I just want to say that off the top, I really appreciate everybody getting on board this so quickly. I think it's something the community really wants, to be honest. So sorry, I really probably went too far with that preamble before opening it up, but please open it up for discussion and comments. Councillor Burton, then Councillor Jansman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. What a great tribute to our Indigenous peoples. And I think it's an excellent locations that staff have come up with. And, you know, with the plaques being the next step in the process, I think it's a great tribute. And it's also an educational piece for getting the South Grenville kids involved, and you know, they will have an opportunity to learn a little bit more as well. So I think this is an excellent idea and excellent places. So kudos to staff. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Councillor Jansman, please.
Well, pretty much echo what Leanne just said. I love the idea to start with this as a community thing, getting the students involved and making it education for all of us. So I think it's a great report. So super, thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jansman. Other comments, questions? Councillor Shankar, please.
Sorry, tonight I'm having a few internet issues, as I think probably Councillor McConnell is too. I love this report. I think it's a great idea. I like getting it off the roads, to tell you the truth, for reasons that don't need much more publicity. But the wayfinding wheel, I think, is really sharp, and you know, that can go just about anywhere. So that will be good discussion as to where, if, when, and if we get that, where we're going to put it. I really like the fact that we're including the community, from our students at the high school to, and you know, we'll probably get some volunteers who want to help out. I know there's always a Facebook crowd that likes to question everything we do, and they didn't like the fact that it was costing money. This is not going to cost money. It's just going to cost some time and effort. So, you know, people that want to volunteer, here's your opportunity to help out. So thank you.
Thanks, Gory. Wise words, and something I think we all stand behind. Any further comments this evening? The only thing I would say is I know the weather is starting to turn, but if we can get this rolling, and I think that is the basic objective, as Mr. Armstrong mentioned, to try to paint now. I'll reach out to Christine Sloan again as well, because I did talk to her initially about this, and she was absolutely all in with her team at the high school. Christine's done such great work with us in the past, murals and so forth, and see if we can get that rolling fairly quickly so we can get the paint down before we get into get too heavily into the winter. I think we probably got a, well, probably shouldn't say it, but I think we've got a couple weeks before we start into the real cold weather. So thanks again to everybody for the teamwork on this. I think it's great for the community, and it's just the right thing to do, and really glad we're embracing this, and both for this fall and then with expanding next year. So look forward to an additional report over the winter with regards to the progress with the plaques and so forth, and what we could do there to tell that very important story of our shared heritage and the Indigenous history of the lands in which we walk. Councillor Jansman, another comment?
Yes, if I could, this is just yet another indicator how Christine Sloan is such a partner to the community and to the town, and worth acknowledging. Her no doubt, her being the contact at the school.
Yeah, absolutely. She was all over this. I messaged her on Facebook when we were talking about this a couple weekends ago, responded immediately, and thinks it's just a phenomenal idea. And it also, you know, anything that lets her get out the paintbrush and work on a project, she's happy to do. So we're really, really lucky to have someone like Christine teaching right here at South Grenville, and her students as well. So if no further comments, I'm not seeing any, so I will call the vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks again, everyone, for a great discussion and great work together on this very valuable project. And wow, we're actually already at 12.8. 12.8 is staff report 103-2021. That's my Main Street Funding Accelerator Program. Recommendation is that council direct staff to proceed with applying to the My Main Street Program Accelerator stream for funding support for a Main Street ambassador to secure local business grants and engage in community market research and analysis activities. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor Young. Dana, I believe this one's yours.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to council. So we have an exciting program to report on tonight. There's a new funding program available that is been branded the My Main Street Funding Accelerator Program. There's actually two streams that are available through this program. The one that we're bringing forward to you tonight is the Accelerator Program stream. So essentially this, what we're recommending is that the council approve an application be submitted to this program in the amount of requesting $57,500 in funding through the program. There would be some in-kind cost to council, but no direct financial impact to the town to engage in this program. And it's a really excellent initiative that's going to provide, essentially it's fourfold. So there would be funding made available to hire what's called a Main Street ambassador for a 12-month contract period, along with some program delivery costs. That's what equates to that $57,500. And as part of the program, you receive the first step is a community market profile is conducted. So the purpose of this is really to take a look at your community and the area that you've identified and identify potential opportunities for revitalizing the downtown, supporting new businesses and attracting additional businesses to the community to support the existing business mix. So once that initial assessment is completed, the Main Street ambassador now works for the next 12 months to provide essentially wraparound supports to the business community, to our existing businesses, as well as works to attract 5 new businesses to the community. And if successful, those 5 new businesses would each receive a grant of $10,000 to be used as part of their business startup and ongoing marketing, inventory, securing a location. A multitude of costs can go into that funding. And there would be another 5 grants available to 5 existing businesses, same amount, $10,000. So it would be like a competitive process where businesses could apply for this funding. So the Main Street ambassador would work with these businesses, implementing, helping them with their startup, as well as just providing broader business retention and expansion services to the existing business community, which is really a critical piece when it comes to economic development. It's been a proven fact that 80% of growth comes from your existing business communities. So we're really excited to see this program come forth and really provide us with an opportunity to continue delivering those ongoing business support services that we've been able to really ramp up as part of the Digital Main Street program. 2 totally different programs. They both have a variety of different features, where the Digital Main Street was focused more on helping existing brick and mortar businesses to enhance their revenues by exploring digital marketing and e-commerce. This is really meant to provide a multitude of supports to our business community that don't have to be just digital in focus. So we're very excited to see this program come forward, and we're recommending that council proceed with an application to the program. And something else I wanted to note, as many of you are aware, we're just going through the process of a new economic development strategy development. And we've just received the preliminary findings of that report just last week and are in the process of reviewing that. And one of the key priorities that you'll see come forward from that is keeping businesses top of mind. And some of the key actions that are being recommended as part of that priority are providing support for small businesses, as well as helping with technology and productivity tools. And the Business Retention and Expansion Program, an ongoing dedicated program, is one of the best ways that you can help deliver on some of these actions and priorities that we're seeing come out of the economic development strategy. So I'm really excited about how this program is going to dovetail really nicely into some of those strategies that we're seeing come out of the economic development strategy development. So that, I believe, is it for me. I think I've covered the main aspects of the program. And as mentioned earlier, there is no direct financial contribution to the town, some in kind to provide ongoing office space and administration, of course, from myself, and just office supplies and other programming supports. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Dana, open it up for comments, questions from members of council. Councillor Shankar, please. Then Councillor Jansman.
I missed a lot of the presentation, but I read the report. Dana, good job. I think this is a great program that is, especially with COVID, you know, and where people were shopping online and ordering food online. And, you know, Katarina's was a great example where I think they were able to put their daily special on and everything like that. So I think this is great, and if we're going to get funding for a town ambassador, I think we should support it wholeheartedly. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shankar. I had Councillor Jansman next, and Councillor Young, did you just have your hand up as well?
I did.
So Councillor Jansman and Councillor Young, please.
Thank you. I initially was you answered my question, Dana. So in your presentation, I was concerned as to how it would complement or be redundant to the Main Street program. So thank you for that. So would this be this would be all areas like Town of Prescott, Augusta, and Edwardsburg Cardinal as well, or just Prescott?
Oh, sorry, I should have clarified that, Councillor Jansman. So this program would be dedicated specifically to Prescott.
Okay,
it is specific to the municipality and actually specific to a defined business area. So we would be looking at the downtown as part of this, as well as taking it up into the uptown business area, so that we're not missing out on those independent businesses. And that would really be the focus, of course, the downtown. But we really, as I mentioned, we don't want to miss out, because I find sometimes those programs don't always capture those outlying downtown areas. So that would essentially be the defined area. And something else I forgot to note is that the anticipation is, if successful, this program would ramp up right around the time that the Digital Main Street program comes to an end. So we wouldn't have this redundancy of two programs happening at the same time. And it also wouldn't, because we do have limited capacity here when it comes to staff resources. So it would be manageable from a town perspective as well.
Great. And the 50,000, would that be inclusive of benefits as well, or would this be a contract position?
Contract position. Very similar to the Digital Main Street coordinator, very similar terms, just for a longer period.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Councillor Young, please.
Brett, my only comment is we can never do too much to help the merchants of Prescott.
Good point, especially now with the transition over to a more digital-based economy. And I think we've done an excellent job with that so far, but we can always do more. And this is a great initiative. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, so I will call the vote then. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. We got through a pretty heavy agenda in very short order this evening, actually. That was very good, very productive. A lot of great stuff there. I did have to add one thing in resolutions, though, as I noted, and everyone was sent the wording earlier. I will read it, and I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. And this is, of course, with regards to testing, molecular testing still being required by the federal government to for Canadian citizens coming back into the country on travel after November 8th, when the U.S. border is open, U.S. land border is open. So the resolution reads, whereas the communities of Prescott and Ogdensburg, New York, enjoy a close, long-standing history that goes back centuries and includes many ties of friendship and family across the world's longest undefended border. And whereas the nations of Canada and the United States enjoy bonds and alliances that include a shared history, supporting one another through challenging times, world wars, and the aftermath of 9/11, both here at home when hosting stranded American air travelers in September 2001, and abroad during the shared mission to Afghanistan that cost many Canadian lives. And whereas Canadian citizens have endured necessary hardships during the COVID-19 pandemic that have included extra difficulties locally due to the unprecedented extended closure of the land border between Canada and the United States. And whereas many local citizens have strong ties of friendship and family in the United States, thanks to the aforementioned history that has seen us look across the St. Lawrence River for over 200 years at neighbors, not at the shores of a foreign nation. And whereas the United States government will be opening the land borders to Canadian travelers as of November 8th, 2021, following the opening of our border to American travelers as of August 9th, 2021. And whereas the Canadian government is continuing to insist that Canadian travelers to the United States pay for a costly and difficult to source molecular COVID-19 test in order to return home after crossing the land border. And whereas this test will make travel into the United States from Canada prohibitive due to its high cost and availability, especially for day travelers who make up the vast majority of local visitors using the Prescott-Ogdensburg International Bridge and the majority of all land travelers crossing between Canada and the United States. And whereas air travelers traveling between the United States and Canada are still allowed use of the much cheaper, more readily available antigen COVID-19 rapid test, therefore be it resolved that the Corporation of the Town of Prescott requests that the federal government remove the requirement for Canadian travelers to be tested for COVID-19 when using a land crossing into the United States after the November 8th, 2021 reopening, and that copies of this resolution be sent to the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister, the Honorable Bill Blair, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, the Honorable Michael Barrett, MP, Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Steve Clark, MPP for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes, and of course also Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, all Leeds, Grenville municipalities, the members of the Ontario Borders group that I did note here, all those members, including Prescott, of course, Senator Chuck Schumer in New York, Senator Kristen Gillibrand in New York, Representative Elise Stefanik, 21st Congressional District, Northern New York, Representative Brian Higgins, 26th Congressional District, Western New York State Senator Patty Ritchie, 48th District, Northern New York, and of course the city of Ogdensburg, New York. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander, seconder. Councillor Young, thank you. I'll just speak to it briefly, and I don't think I need to add too much more, but this has obviously been a serious point of concern since the Americans did announce last week that they would be reopening the border to Canadian land travelers. It's something that our mayor's group have talked about quite a bit, and since it became very clear over the weekend, and I see Minister Blair did do an interview on CBC yesterday confirming that they would be continuing to insist on the molecular test. I think that's it's gotten to the point if they're going to continue to insist on that, they might as well keep the border closed. I don't think there's going to be a dramatic amount of difference there because that molecular test is $150, $200 per test. And the other part of it that really kind of boggles the mind with regards to public health and safety, because that's obviously paramount and first and foremost on all of our minds, but that molecular test can be actually taken in Canada before you leave for the US. So unless I'm getting confused here somewhere, you could actually take the test in Canada, go to the United States, return within that 72-hour window, and you could have picked up Delta wave COVID 6 ways from Sunday in the US, and you're not tested upon from when leaving the country and not tested again on arrival. So I'm not sure how that actually would assist with promoting public health here in Canada. Then there's the cost, the fact that air travelers don't have to deal with this. I think it's quite misguided overall. It doesn't make a great deal of sense. And we're in a position now where we've got a highly vaccinated population, particularly here in Leeds Grenville, but across the entire population of Ontario. And we need to start getting back to a little sense of normalcy. And these testing requirements are not going to allow that to happen with regards to border travel. So I'm working with the mayor's group on this. I had a good email discussion just late this afternoon again with Mayor Mike Bradley in Sarnia. And Mike actually started really pushing this at the end of last week. And we talked over the weekend about this, and then Mayor Drew Dilkins in Windsor as well. So, and he did ask for a copy of this resolution even before the meeting tonight. So we'll get it out there if approved tonight and just see what the reaction is. I do think the feds are going to have to really think about this one, because opening the border just doesn't make a whole lot of sense under these sorts of preconditions. Any discussion, comments, questions? I apologize for bringing this so quickly again this evening without a whole lot of preamble, but obviously this is kind of an ongoing situation, and November 8th is coming up pretty quick. So seeing no comments, questions, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Thanks, everyone. So that takes us through our main business this evening. Nothing under 14 bylaws, 15 new business. Any member have any new business to bring forward? Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I just wanted to mention that the McKay Funeral Home is going to be hosting a private family gathering for Leo. I'm just wondering if, I think it would be a great idea that the town makes some kind of donation or plant a tree. I know you can plant a tree in memory and memory of Leo or a loved one. I've done it before, and I think it's a great tribute, and I think it's a good idea that we do something that's significant and recognize Leo. Thank you.
Absolutely, great point, Councillor Burton. I hadn't seen that they'd announced any arrangements yet, but really good to catch that, and we'll definitely make sure that there's some presence there and something. And I actually, and I don't want to get too far down the road with this, but one thing we don't have in town is we don't have any street or anything like that named for Leo. And I was thinking something around the new arena. Renaming a portion of Churchill could be quite problematic given the industrial addresses and so forth. But I was thinking about the north part of Sophia Street. There are no real addresses there, I don't believe, although I'd want to check with Kriska on what they use for the address for the office. But that might not be a bad location as a Leo Boyvin Boulevard, Street, what have you, that would run from that section of the tracks all the way up to the Town Works Garage, and of course include that section in front of the arena. So the new arena could be, and obviously we've had issues with that naming. It's been somewhat controversial, and not going to revisit that. But if we had the Elaine Chartrand Center at the corner of Leo Boyvin Boulevard and Churchill Road, it's kind of a nice way to look at that as well when we're marketing the new rink and so forth. Because I don't think we can, in a lot of ways, we can't do too much for Leo there. He was such a great guy, and he's left a tremendous legacy. But anyways, I was going to talk to staff about that and bring it back to council at some point in the not too distant future, so we can discuss potential options. But you brought it up tonight, so I might as well mention it, because there's definitely some ways there we could pay more tribute to a great guy. Anything else under new business for anyone this evening? I'll just mention really quickly that we have been really looking at getting back into the council chambers, and we're going to try earlier in September and then October. But Caitlin and Lindsay have both been doing an excellent job, and there's a lot of stuff set up in there, but it's not quite there yet with regards to moving back in, as we're trying to focus on these will be permanent changes, because I think we will have the hybrid option for council is going to be with us for a long time, not just councilors, but visitors, presentations, and so forth. So we have to be as AV friendly to people that will be zooming in, and that just stands to reason that we make these changes as permanent as possible. So we're really set up for moving forward there with internal meetings once we get through COVID and through kind of this gray area in the next, say, 6 months. So that will be happening. Happening fairly shortly. Hopefully by the end of the year, but it's an evolving process, and we are just for everyone's knowledge, we are working at getting back into chambers. I see a lot of local municipalities are still remote, and a lot are looking towards the end of the year and the start of 2022 to moving back into a little more of a regular process for meetings. So I just want to let everyone know that that's still moving forward. It's a bit of a process. So moving along, at 16, notices of motion. Does anyone have any notice of motion this evening? Seeing none. 17, mayor's proclamations, nothing tonight, nothing under closed session, either under 18. 19, rise and reports, and nothing there for no closed session. And takes us right to 20, the confirming bylaw tonight. That's 45-2021. Recommendation is that bylaw 45-2021. Sorry, Councillor McConnell, you're back. sorry, I lost you there for a little bit. Did you have a comment under new business?
No, it wasn't under, well, I guess you get it. I've been waving here for a while. No, I was gone for about 15 minutes. I don't know what happened with my computer, but Lindsay managed to give me some advice, get me back on. No, I was surprised to hear you talking when I got back on about coming back to council chambers. And I'm wondering, is there any thought on members of council about the size of our current council chambers? I mean, when you get council in there and you get staff in there, that room is small. The first time we went in there, I thought it was small. The old chambers that we had when we got a bunch of people in there was small, but at least the old chambers, when we had our own people there without visitors, was a decent size. And that area is still undeveloped on the second floor. And the council chambers that we have is very nice, but that could just as easily be used as a room, the way the Ruth Evanson room is, as a rental room or as a usage room. And I'm wondering if there's any feeling by the rest of council to have that original council chambers redeveloped for us, so we have at least enough space to get our own people in there for a decent meeting. Now, I'm not talking the amount of money that was spent on the one as it was with the fancy ceiling and all that, but just finish it off into a room that we can use, and possibly even with different furniture that can be moved out of the way so that the room can be used for other people. And I'm sorry I'm so late with that. It's just I haven't been here.
No worries, and I apologize for missing you there. I didn't see you log back in. I did note it when you did get cut off, but I didn't see you log back in. So apologize for that. But interestingly enough, and we'll add this as a topic very soon. I did talk about this with Matthew last week, the status of the second floor. There are some complications there that'll be coming back to council in the near future. Suffice to say, we do have to look at a few things there again. So that is subject for discussion. There are definitely options there. I completely agree with you on the size of that room. The way the room is set up even now with the table pulled back, it's very cramped, and with distributing staff around and so on, there's no public room really in there, and anything we do to set the room up for AV could certainly be converted to just like a meeting chamber later on as well, and we can look at other alterations. I know Kempville does something similar with where they meet in the theater. They pull the chairs in and out, so they've got a lot of added space. We could do something like that if you had that back room that we'd always sort of looked at as a meeting hall / performance center for Shakespeare and whatever else. But there's definitely room there. The second floor, it's not exactly a blank slate, but there's still a lot of room for changes. So if we leave it at that this evening, though, unless Matt has anything to follow up with on that, I think I'm accurately characterizing what we talked about last week. There will be some details coming forward in the not too distant future. Is that good, Matt, for where we're at with that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. So thanks for bringing that up, Lee. Excellent point, and definitely something we will have back fairly soon to let everyone know where we're at with that second floor and if there's a possibility of tweaks and changes. Hint, hint, there are. So anyhow, we'll get back to that. So no one else had any, I didn't miss anyone else on new business, seeing all good. Okay, thank you. So we are at confirming bylaw under 20 recommendations of bylaw 45-2021 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on October 18th, 2021 be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Any comments, questions? Also seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. And item 21, everyone's favorite motion, because my Leafs are playing tonight. Motion for adjournment. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by, come on, folks, Councillor McConnell. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We're adjourned. Want to thank everybody for participating this evening. Great meeting, great staff reports, a lot of good action for the town tonight. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Have a great next couple of weeks, and we'll see you on November 1st. Take care all. Have a great night.